right. Hi everyone, my name is Trent. Welcome if you're new here. Today we will be reviewing, reflecting, tabulating 2025. And this is something that I'm very excited for because at the beginning of this year I decided that I wanted to track a few different things throughout my life just to better see the progression from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And I don't know, I've just always been slightly a numbers guy. I do not like math in that sense, but there are just certain things that I like knowing. So there were a few things that I wanted to track this year, so I'm pretty excited to get into this. In my last video, I counted up all the clothes that I started the year with and then ended the year with, just to see the difference between there. And so in this video, we're going over everything else that I kind of tabulated and kept track of, as well as just going over and like reflecting on the year in general and how I feel it went. Because if you look at my goals, they were not accomplished. But when I look back at the year, it wasn't a bad year by any means. Just looking at some of the things that I ended up starting this year or things that I ended up doing, I completely started my full-time office job because at the beginning of the year, I was doing part-time internship, part-time food service job. So that's been quite nice. I got back into teaching color guard, which I'm very excited about. Running and training for a marathon has been better this time around. Still not amazing necessarily, but I'm in less pain and it's coming along easier. I feel like overall I've just been more consistent in a lot of different aspects of my life. There's still plenty of progress to be made, but overall I'm taking more steps in the right direction. I made new friends this year, which sounds a little silly coming from a 23-year-old, but I made some friends at the very beginning of college and then I made some at the end, but I didn't really make any in the middle and I didn't really make any through any classes. So it's been nice to find a new friend group and find some new people to hang out with and that kind of thing. I moved into a space that I feel much, much happier in. The first 9 months of the year we spent living in an apartment, but I'm very happy to now be in a house again. And so that has been quite a nice change. I also feel like I know who I am a little bit more. And that sounds kind of cliche and dumb and whatever, but I just feel like ultimately, you know, with social media and everything, it's hard to see what like an ideal life could look for you because you can dream of so many different options, but what's feasible is a completely different story. And I feel like I've kind of narrowed down on some things that I want to see in my future this year, which has been quite nice. Additionally, I lost the stress of feeling the need to impress people online. I feel like that sounds a little hypocritical given the fact that I am posting YouTube videos, but in terms of Instagram and that kind of thing, which I feel like is the place where we most tend to update the people that we know on our lives, aka people from high school. I don't care what people really think nowadays. I mean, I haven't really posted at all except for like friends' birthdays this year, but even still, I don't really care what people think, which I think is a good thing. And it's easy for me to say that given the fact that I'm not posting, but I feel like if anything, that's the reason why I don't care, because they don't need to know anything about my life, because if something is important in my life, the right people will know about it. The people that I actually care about, which aren't typically the people that I would see on social media. So anyways, that's just some of the things that I kind of noticed and reflected on this year, but now let's get into some of the numbers. So I tried to track these things in my bullet journal, which I've never been 100% consistent at, so nothing is going to be perfect, but I think that based on like the calculations that I did, I took some averages, I did a lot. So I feel like the numbers are somewhat accurate. One of the things that I did want to track this year is the amount of caffeine that I consume. I normally just have like one caffeine source throughout the day, but even still, I kind of wanted to see how that was split up between having either a cup of coffee as my main caffeine source, an energy drink, or like a decent amount of tea. Because I cannot have too much caffeine in a day. That will just leave me jittery and shaky for way too long. So I normally stick to just one caffeine source. Maybe I'll have like a soda that has a little bit of caffeine after, but that's pretty rare. This one was hard to track because realistically, there should be 365 total like sources of caffeine with the occasional soda, but like I didn't ever double up between tea and coffee in the same day or coffee and an energy drink because that would just be far too much. So anyways, I tried to track it. It wasn't perfect. My guess is that I had about 23 to 25 cups of coffee each month. I had 3 to 5 energy drinks each month, and then I had maybe 2 to 3 days where I just had tea as my caffeine source. And ultimately, the goal is to get it to where it's only coffee and tea. I I got sucked into some of the Costco deals for energy drinks, which is why I purchased them, because I'm not spending more than $1 per can. And so at Costco, you can get a deal or two, but I'm trying to slowly use them and then not replace them. And so the goal ultimately will be to, once I finish out the last one, I don't buy anymore. Given those monthly numbers, it came out to probably around 300 cups of coffee, and then 40-ish energy drinks, and then 20 to 25-ish days where just tea was my caffeine. The next one that I tracked is alcoholic beverages. I personally only plan on drinking if I plan on having a good time. I don't really drink socially unless I know that it will be a fun time. So, with that in mind, this one was also kind of hard to track because I normally could look back and, remember around the amount of drinks that I ended up having, but since it happened so infrequently, it was hard to make sure that I actively tallied it every single time. But I tallied 94 alcoholic beverages this year. Realistically, we're gonna call it 110. We'll say that I missed around 15, but that was split up probably between 15 to 18-ish days, because like I said, I don't drink socially at all. I think it's a waste of money, and since it messes up with your sleep and everything, there's no reason for me to just have one drink if we're going out to dinner. I would rather have a night where I plan on having a good time or just not drink at all. And so those 110-ish drinks were split up between 15 to 18-ish occasions of drinking. And yeah, I think that in the grand scheme of me being in my younger 20s, that's not a lot, but it kind of still sounds like more than I was expecting, I guess. But I mean, if it was only 15 to 18-ish times, that comes out to maybe once or twice a month where I was actively choosing to drink a decent amount. And so when I look at it that way, it's not much at all, which is kind of scary, because if that was only once or twice a month where I was drinking to have a good time, what would that look like if that was a weekly or even multiple times a week kind of thing? But not something for me to worry about at the moment. I did not plan this, quite frankly, but the shirt that I'm wearing is telling. The thing that I wanted to know the most was the amount of times that I ate out at In-N-Out Burger this year. Overall, I think that In-N-Out is a better fast food option. Obviously, it still isn't good for you, but given the price, given the quality of the food, I consider it to be a better option, because I can always leave there spending less than $10 on a meal, and I think that's pretty rare nowadays. It also just tastes the best, I think. It also is the easiest on my stomach. There's a lot of reasons, but ultimately, me and In-N-Out Burger are like this. We are like this. So, I do frequent there a decent amount. I would say of the times that I go out to eat, In-N-Out is where I'm eating probably 70% of the time. So realistically, I'm not eating out anywhere else except for basically In-N-Out and a little bit of some other options. But anyways, I wanted to track how many times I went to In-N-Out this year, and it could be worse. It definitely could be worse, but based on my credit card, plus a few, because I think that there were a few times where my roommate and we ended up ordering it together because we were in the drive-thru or something. But based on my credit card plus a little bit, I ate out at In-N-Out Burger 75 times this year. I'm going back and forth on if that sounds like a lot or if it doesn't sound like much. Obviously, more than once a week is a little crazy, but again, given the price, given the quality, and given the fact that I don't really eat out anywhere else, I'm not mad at it. I honestly thought it would be a little bit worse. I was expecting closer to 100, so I'm considering 75 a good total. But yeah, based on my credit card, I spent $680-ish on In-N-Out Burger, which not bad given that it was 75 meals. It feel like if that was me going out to any sort of sit-down restaurant or that kind of thing, it would easily be way double that number. So in that sense, I'm not mad, but $700 basically is a little crazy. But anyways, also do keep in mind that was All of this is up to December 1st. Sorry, I should have clarified that. But realistically, add a few more because I did already go a few times in December, but I'm not including that in this total because everything is just the first 11 months of the year. All right, now looking at some of the behaviors and some of the other numbers for this year, compared to 2024, I listened to 11,000 more minutes of music on Spotify. So in 2025, I listened to 121,000, where in 2024, I listened to 109,000, which is actually 12,000 more. That was really embarrassing. But anyways, if we count beginning of January to like middle November, that comes out to 6 hours and 20 minutes a day, which is not surprising to me because I listen to it at work a decent amount. I listen to it on all my commutes, every time I'm at the gym, that kind of thing. I reduced the amount of like songs that I had on Spotify from 8,500 to 48 because a few years ago I went on a spree of just adding like any song I could think of to my like songs, even if I didn't actually enjoy listening to it. So I had to take a long time to reverse all that. But I'm happy where I'm at now. I know all of the songs in my like songs, and it's a much better feeling, definitely. If you saw the last video, you already know this, but I reduced the amount of clothes and the articles of clothing that I have from 405 to 337. That's including hats, that's including belts, that's including ties even, it's including literally everything. And so that sounds like a lot, but I feel like given knowing that it's literally everything I own, it's not too bad. And so getting into some of like the behaviors, I wrote down that I started off sleeping anywhere from 6 to 7.5 hours a night. And I was waking up a decent amount of times throughout the night, just tossing and turning, that kind of thing. Where I can say this year, I rarely get less than 7 hours of sleep. Sometimes if it's a rough night, I'll get, 6.5. But realistically, I'm getting anywhere from 7 to 8. So that's not that much of a difference, but I definitely feel more energized throughout the day, which is quite nice. I do not remember this, but I started off with a screen time anywhere from 4 to 6 hours on a daily basis. That's a lot. But ending the year, I'm consistently always somewhere in the 3-hour range. And so still more than I would like, but that's a lot more digestible than 4 to 6 hours. I wrote down that I started off making my bed only in the summer. And I think part of that is just because it's so cold and everything in the winter that it's easier to just toss it over because I don't want to spend the time to make my bed, and then it's easier to get in, yada yada. But now I can say that probably 5 times a week I'm actively making my bed. So still not perfect, but I think once summertime does come around, I'll be 100% of the time making my bed. It's just tricky when it's dark out to find the motivation to get ready for the day and make my bed. This year I started off cooking a little bit, but realistically I was cooking 1 or 2 meals over and over again and just eating the leftovers of that / meal prepping. And ending this year, I still don't cook a wide variety of things, but I feel like the things that I overall consume is better. I'm consuming more fruits and vegetables than I started off the year with. The meat and the protein and the carbs that I am consuming at the end of the year are definitely better quality than what I started off consuming, because it used to just be ground turkey or ground chicken, where now it's actual like chicken thigh. So I feel better about that. But I definitely do still need to improve on actively cooking with more ingredients, because yeah, I'm eating more fruits and veggies, but I would like to incorporate them into meals a little bit more as well. And then the last behavior, at least, I started off planning / bullet journaling rarely. It was realistically maybe once or twice a month that I would try to like set up a weekly setup where I have a few to-do lists on there, where I've been better. It's still not perfect by any means, but I do have a good feeling going into 2026 because I'm going to start early and make sure that I am like prepared and locked down. But yeah, I started off rarely ever bullet journaling, where I'm definitely more consistent now. But I think something else that I've been better at is I used to just plan rather than actively take action and do things. And so obviously planning only gets you so far, where realistically you just have to actively do things. And so it's not just about planning, it's also about actively taking the leap, taking the step to do the thing. So yeah, if I were to try to put a percentage on the amount of goals that I accomplished this year compared to what I had planned, I'm probably at like 40%. And of the 40%, they were all relatively easy goals to achieve. So in that sense, not a fantastic year, but based on what I just shared with you and everything, I don't think that 2025 was a bad year. Do I think that this year has been a little hectic, a little crazy, and a little all over the place? Yes. There's no denying that. Between myself, between the job market, between the world, between the United States and everything, the world is crazy right now. But at least on a personal level, I don't think that 2025 was an awful year. There are definitely some things where I've stayed pretty stagnant this year, but then there are some daily things and some weekly rituals that I feel like I've gotten better at doing and definitely gotten more consistent at. But obviously there's still quite a bit of room to improve, but it's a good thing that I am only 23. So maybe let's take our foot off the gas just a little bit and be a little more in the moment. Additionally, I saw a few videos while doom scrolling, because what else would you do? Mentioning how 2025 in numerology is a 9-year, because if you add up all of the numbers, the 2, the 0, the 2, and the 5, it equals 9. And 9 is, to my knowledge, considered like the end of a cycle. It's the end of an era, if you will. There's a lot of things changing, and 2026 is technically a 1 year. There's no 0, it's just 1 through 9. So it's a 1 year, which is supposed to symbolize new beginnings, fresh starts, like better energy, I guess, if you will. And so, do I believe in all of that stuff necessarily? No. But do I feel like I've already noticed a little bit in my personal like thought processes and everything of feeling a little bit like I've already had a slight fresh start, especially since moving in this home? Yes. So, I don't know exactly, but I could believe that there's some truth to that, and so I could believe that this year has felt a little crazy, a little all over the place, but going into this next year, I'll feel a lot calmer and things like that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I want to try and track quite a bit of the same stuff, plus a few other things going into 2026. But if you have anything that you track yourself, or if there's anything that you would suggest for me to track, definitely let me know. Because it's so hard to realize how much change can occur within a year, within any period of time. And so it's quite nice to, even though it's not perfect, at least look at the beginning of the year versus the end and kind of see what did change. And so I would like to continue to do that. That way I can realize the progress that I do make. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon.